Welcome to the InnoGuide podcast, where we share the works of authors and mentors to guide innovation. I'm your host, Bob Udelier. This podcast, my website, my newsletter, and my community are focused on helping you discover the secrets of innovation in the age of AI. Since I don't rely on paid ads, I want to thank customers who bring me onto their programs as a technical product accelerator, working alongside their teams to help them develop products smarter and faster without adding risk, while bringing human-centered AI skills into their organizations. You can learn more at www.innoguide.net. In this episode, number 98, we'll be sharing People Buy You by Jeb Blount. In this week's InnoGuide podcast, we're stepping back one layer. Last week, we explored The Frame by Justin Michael, a book about status, power, positioning, and who is really evaluating whom in a sales conversation. But here's the important part. Frame only works when it's built on real value. That's why People Buy You by Jeb Blount matters first. Before a client buys your offer, your product, your strategy, or your big idea, they're asking a simpler question. Do I trust this person? If you've not earned credibility, solved real problems, and shown that you genuinely understand the client's world, then Frame turns into theater. But when trust, competence, and value are already there, Frame becomes quiet confidence. Both are key to success. So without further ado, let's get started. Welcome to this exploration of how we connect with people in meaningful ways. Jeb starts with something he's witnessed countless times throughout his career, that magical moment when someone finally understands something that changes everything. We live in a world drowning in information. Every day we're bombarded with facts, figures, data points, and statistics from every direction, plus social media. We have instant access to nearly unlimited knowledge in our pockets. Yet, here's the paradox that fascinates him. Despite all this information at our fingertips, people still struggle to connect with one another. They struggle to influence others. They struggle to build genuine relationships that lead to meaningful outcomes. That's what he calls the information to empathy gap. For decades, we've operated under a belief system that said if you had the right information, the right pitch, the right facts, the right data, you could convince anyone of anything. Load them up with information, make your case logically, present the evidence, and they'll see things your way. It made sense in theory, but in practice it doesn't work. He started noticing this shift in the early 2000s. The world was changing in ways that had profound implications for how we interact. Technology was accelerating yet again. Social media was emerging. The marketplace was becoming increasingly competitive, and people were becoming more skeptical, more overwhelmed, and frankly, more isolated despite being more connected than ever. Let me introduce you to Tim Sanders, someone he met early in his research. Tim became a living example of what happens when you move beyond information into empathy. He wasn't the loudest voice in the room or the most aggressive salesman, but what Tim understood was this: people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Tim would walk into a business meeting, and instead of immediately launching into features and benefits, he would ask genuine questions about the other person's situation, their challenges, their goals. He would listen, really listen, to their answers. Then, and this is crucial, he would think about how he could actually help, not just how he could close a sale. His results were extraordinary. His clients stayed loyal. His referrals were constant. His deals closed at higher values, and you know why? Because he had figured out something fundamental that the information age has obscured. Human beings make decisions based on emotion first, then rationalize with logic. We buy from people we trust. We trust people who demonstrate empathy and understanding. This realization became the foundation for everything in this book. It's the shift from simply transferring information to actually creating empathy. It's about understanding that in the 21st century, your ability to connect with people emotionally is far more valuable than your ability to recite facts. Think about your own experience. When you're considering a major purchase or decision, do you choose purely based on who has the best information? Or do you choose based on who you trust, who understands your situation, and who has shown genuine interest in your success? He says, the light bulb moment for me came when I realized that the most successful people I studied across sales, leadership, and influence weren't necessarily the smartest people in the room. They weren't the ones with the most information, but they were the ones who had mastered the art of making other people feel understood, valued, and supported. And that's what we're going to explore together. Not how to accumulate more information, not how to become a better salesman in a traditional sense, but how to become someone who genuinely understands, connects with, and creates value for the people around you. Because that's where real influence lives. That's where authentic relationships are built, and that's where true success begins. The journey from information to empathy isn't complicated, but it does require a fundamental shift in how you see your interactions with others, and that shift changes everything. In this section, we're diving into one of the most powerful and overlooked principles in building meaningful business relationships, the law of reciprocity. Reciprocity is really simple. It's the natural human tendency to return favors and treat others the way we've been treated. When someone does something nice for us, we feel almost obligated to reciprocate. It's hardwired into our nature. But this isn't manipulation. This is genuine human connection at its finest. Think about the last time somebody surprised you with an unexpected kindness. Maybe they remembered something important about you, or they went out of their way to help without being asked. How did that make you feel? Did you naturally want to reciprocate? Of course you did. That's reciprocity in action. In business, this principle becomes your new secret weapon. But here's what most people get wrong. They think about reciprocity as transactional. They do a favor expecting something immediate in return. That's backwards. Real reciprocity is about giving first, genuinely, without keeping score. When you sweat the small stuff in your relationships, you're activating reciprocity. Those little gestures, remembering someone's birthday, asking about their family, sending an article you think they'll find valuable. These aren't small at all. They're the foundation of trust, and trust is everything. And it doesn't cost anything to be nice, yet somehow in our fast-paced business world, we've convinced ourselves we don't have time for niceties. We're too busy with quotas, emails, and meetings. But here's what he's learned. The little things are actually the big things. Those small moments of genuine connection compound over time into powerful relationships that open doors you didn't even know existed. Listening builds trust faster than anything else. When you truly listen to someone, not just wait for your turn to talk, but actually listen, you're sending a powerful message. You're saying, you matter. Your thoughts, your concerns, your dreams matter to me. When people feel heard, they naturally want to help you, work with you, and refer business to you. Here's something crucial. Admit when you're wrong and apologize. Yes, it feels vulnerable, but reciprocity tells us that when you have the courage to own your own mistakes, people respect you more, not less. You've modeled accountability and humility, and they see your character. Consistent behavior is the glue that holds reciprocity together. You can't be nice on Monday and dismissive on Friday. People are watching whether you treat the CEO the same way you treat the administrative assistant. They're noticing if you follow through on your commitments. Consistency builds credibility, and credibility unlocks reciprocity. But reciprocity requires a system. You can't rely on memory or good intentions. Develop a disciplined approach to maintaining relationships. Document what matters to people. Follow up consistently. Create positive emotional experiences intentionally. When you systematize genuine kindness, you remove the friction that prevents people from showing up for you. The beauty of the law of reciprocity is that it's not complicated. It's not about manipulation tactics or clever sales techniques. It's about being a genuinely good human being. It's about recognizing that the person across from you has hopes, fears, dreams, and challenges just like you. When you lead with empathy and generosity, when you give without keeping score, reciprocity becomes your greatest business asset. People will move mountains for those who've shown them genuine care. They'll refer business, recommend you for opportunities, and stand by you when things get tough. And the best part, it all starts with you deciding that people matter most. That's the law of reciprocity. Simple, powerful, transformative. So that's a great background for this book. And as he gets into his first chapters, he says he believes the single most important question any business professional can ask themselves is this: what is it that truly drives success? Think about it. Is it your education, your experience? Maybe it's your product knowledge, job title, or the territory you've been assigned? Could it be your company's reputation, their pricing strategy, or the latest marketing collateral? Perhaps it's the newest CRM software, or your social media strategy, or even the color of your business card. You could hire a fancy consulting firm to create an exhaustive list. You could add bullet points, build a PowerPoint presentation, go through the whole dog and pony show. But here's what he's learned after 20 years in sales. None of the above matter. The most important competitive edge for today's business professionals can't be found in any resume, any marketing brochure, or any list. If you want to know what your single most powerful competitive edge truly is, just look in the mirror. It's you. Now, don't misunderstand me, he says. Those other things absolutely matter. Education, product knowledge, territory, they're important. But think of them as admission tickets. They get you into the game. In today's hyper-competitive world, when all things are equal, and frankly they almost always are, people buy you. Your ability to build lasting relationships, close more deals, retain clients, and advance your career depends entirely on your capacity to get others to like you, trust you, and ultimately buy you. When you fully embrace this philosophy, something remarkable happens. Your confidence rises, you perform at a higher level, you realize just how much power you actually possess as a business professional. For the first time, you understand how much control you have over your destiny. Let me tell you how this book came about, he says. I sketched its outline on a napkin during lunch with a friend in San Francisco. We'd been discussing how incredibly complicated most sales books and training had become. As someone who publishes the most visited sales website on the planet, I receive several new business books each week to review. It's astonishing. Every author tries to one-up the last one with a newer approach, a fresher system, a revolutionary program, promising to help professionals close more business, build winning teams, and create better careers. But here's what happened. In the rush to complicate things, we've abandoned the basic principles of human interactive that govern everything in our lives. My first sales manager taught me something invaluable. Selling is governed by basic rules and principles. We worked on complex multi-million-dollar deals, but he coached me relentlessly to focus on those fundamentals. Our closing percentage was among the highest in the industry because we stuck to basics. Over 2 decades, he says, I rarely strayed from this approach, and whenever I did, failure reminded me quickly not to do it again. But 3 major trends have created complexity in the business world: technology, communications, and specialization. Technology and communications have transformed organizations, replacing the art of business with sleek, process-driven systems. The problem? The pendulum has swung too far toward technology and away from interpersonal skills. Companies have invested billions in systems designed to give their people more time together, yet they've stopped teaching the basics of human relationships. When he met Tim Sanders, the author of The Likability Factor, his words sparked something in him. He realized at its core, business is simply one person solving another person's problem. And in the 21st century, interpersonal relationships matter more than ever before. Here's the paradox, though. Technology removed communication barriers, making connection faster and cheaper. Yet it simultaneously created barriers that inhibit real human interaction. We've entered an era of instant communications and delayed response. This is our tipping point. We're shifting from the information age, which valued process over people, to something new. Daniel Pink calls it a brand new mind. The jobs that could be reduced to pure process have moved overseas. Now they're moving to AI, of course. The jobs that remain require empathy, human interaction, and interpersonal skills. This is why sales remains the most recession-proof, lucrative profession on earth. So what's the point of this book? It's simple. I want you to understand how critical your ability to connect with others is to your future. This isn't about selling yourself. It's about interacting with others authentically, uncovering their problems, and solving them together. Throughout this book, you'll find practical, actionable steps, no manipulation tricks, no pseudo-psychology, just reality-based guidance that will change how others perceive you, help you build lasting relationships, and ultimately give you the business success you deserve. Welcome to the journey. In this segment, we're going to talk about urban myths. This is the conventional wisdom shared in sales and business that sounds absolutely fantastic. The stuff you hear at every training seminar, read in popular books. Problem is, it doesn't actually work. He spent years believing these myths, and they held him back. And that's why he's going to dispel 3 of them right now, before we go any further. He starts with the first one. Friends buy from friends. Early in his career, he landed a commission-only sales job selling replacement windows and siding. During training, we heard from Herb, the company's all-time top salesman. He shared his secret with us, and it sounded foolproof. Work hard and remember that friends buy from friends. So that's exactly what I did, he said. I called everyone I knew, my friends, my parents' friends, relatives. A week later, he was completely out of friends to call. Why? Because frankly, none of them needed windows or siding. You can't build a sustainable business on friendship alone. Most of the people you need to buy from will never be your friends. Your success depends on getting non-friends to buy from you too. The second myth, people buy from people they like. He learned this the hard way when he lost a major account to a competitor, even though the buyer told me he really liked me. Problem was simple. I'd substituted charm for substance. His competitor had uncovered a real problem the buyer needed solved. And here's the truth. I wish someone had told me sooner, he said. People don't buy from likable people. They buy from people who solve their problems. Charm works sometimes, sure, but not most times. Here's the nuance that matters. People don't buy from people they don't like, but likability only opens the door. It's a gateway. By itself, it's not enough. You need to connect emotionally and solve real problems. The third myth, perhaps, is the most damaging. You have to sell yourself. This cliche gets repeated everywhere, and it backfires spectacularly. People love to buy. What they hate is being sold. When you spend an entire conversation talking about yourself, your accomplishments, your background, you push people away. He learned this painfully when a fan of his previous book sat next to him at a dinner. He talked about himself the entire time. Afterwards, he found out that the fan had a poor opinion of him. The lesson stuck. People buy you for their reasons, not yours. So what really works? Foundation of his entire approach rests on this fundamental truth. People act first on emotion, then justify with logic. Every single decision we make, big or small, is guided by emotion first. To move people to action, he's developed 5 levers that work together as a system. Be likable, connect, solve problems, build trust, and create positive emotional experiences. Likability is the gateway that opens the door. Connection tears down walls so people share their real problems with you. Problem solving is what business actually is. Trust holds relationships together and keeps them strong. And positive emotional experience anchors those relationships for the long term. One final point. All this relationship building only works if you're actually talking to qualified prospects with real buying ability. You still need activity. Cold calls, presentations, consistent follow-ups. Activity drives everything in sales. It's non-negotiable. But here's where the magic happens. Combine consistent activity with these 5 levers, and you'll become a superstar. Not eventually, but soon. So let's return now to being likable. It sounds simple, but absolutely transforms every business relationship you'll ever have. And he promises it's the foundation of everything we're trying to accomplish here. He starts with Brad's story because it perfectly illustrates why this matters so much. Brad had just bought his first building after 10 years of renting. He was proud of it, invested in beautiful landscaping, and everything looked fantastic. Then an insurance agent he'd scheduled an appointment with pulled up. She stepped out of her car and casually flicked her cigarette butt into his new landscaping. That one moment destroyed any chance she had with him. He decided right then and there he'd never do business with her. But she never knew why. Brad was polite during the meeting and later simply made himself unavailable when she followed up. She lost the sale without understanding what happened. That's exactly what he means by likability being the gateway to connections. It simply means having qualities that bring about favorable regard. Without it, people won't engage with you. Nobody wants to spend time with an unlikable person. But if you're not likable, you never get the opportunity to build a relationship. Most people don't realize that likability judgments happen instantly. Unlike trust, which you build over time, people decide if they like you in moments. That first impression is emotional, and it has lasting impact. Some people are naturally gifted at it, but most of us aren't naturally likable to everyone we meet. The good news is there are specific behaviors that create likability, and these are completely within your control. Smiling, good manners, being present, enthusiasm, confidence, authenticity. These fundamental behaviors universally impact how likable you seem. Here's the foundation. People respond in kind. When you smile at someone, 9 times out of 10 they'll smile back. That creates a genuine human exchange. But why don't more people smile? Research shows that we think about ourselves roughly 95% of the time. This self-absorption undermines likability, especially for salespeople and managers. Before entering client meetings or picking up the phone, deliberately shift your focus outward. I personally practice smiling in the mirror before appointments. By the time I meet with someone, my smile is genuine and people respond accordingly. Beyond smiling, good manners have become so rare that politeness now offers a competitive edge. Being kind means treating everyone from janitors to CEOs with genuine respect and courtesy. One underutilized tool is offering sincere compliments. When you genuinely acknowledge someone's traits or accomplishments, you make them feel valued. If you're in sales, you know about gatekeepers. Many salespeople resort to tricks that backfire spectacularly. Here's the truth, though. Gatekeepers are people just like you, with emotions and jobs to do. Be polite, provide your full name and company when calling, and treat gatekeepers as individuals. Ask about their lives and families. The relationships you build with them can be more valuable than your relationship with the decision maker. In our distraction-filled world, truly being present is a superpower. Shut everything off when interacting with people. When they see you checking your phone, it disrespects them and destroys likability. Enthusiasm is contagious. People respond in kind and find enthusiastic people likable. If you can't find enthusiasm in what you do, it's a sign you need to find another path. Confidence is equally critical, but it requires balance. Arrogant people crash and burn, while those lacking confidence are ineffective. Confidence stems from self-talk. Fear is natural. Courageous people don't eliminate fear, they use it to build muscle. Take small steps daily to overcome 1 or 2 fears and track your victories to strengthen your confidence progressively. Here's what really matters, though. Actively invest in yourself across 3 dimensions: mind, body, and spirit. Successful professionals who continually learn outpace their peers in every way. They're happier, more motivated, and significantly more likable. Invest in your intellect through training and reading. Stay sharp on what's happening in your field. Your body matters just as much. Your mental capacity is directly limited by your physical energy. Regular exercise improves your creative thinking and mental clarity. When you look good and feel good, people notice. Don't neglect your spirit either. The most successful executives share one thing: they believe in something bigger than themselves. This foundation creates a powerful belief system that shapes your attitude. When challenges arise, instead of asking, "Why me?" you ask, "What can I learn from this?" That mindset shift changes how people perceive you. Finally, maintain authenticity and consistency. First impressions fade if your behavior doesn't remain steady. In business, you're always on stage. One rude comment can destroy positive impressions quickly. Maintain vigilance and self-discipline to keep likability strong. That's the power of being likable. Likability is the gateway to connecting, and this is probably the most transformative section that we've covered so far. We're going to talk about something that seems simple on the surface, but is genuinely revolutionary when you understand it deeply. Likability is the gateway to connecting, and connecting is what drives successful, profitable business relationships. Let's start with a fundamental truth. Successful professionals share specific qualities. They're cheerful, they're polite, they project positive confidence, and most importantly, they believe in themselves and their ability to solve problems. And people sense that conviction immediately. This likability opens doors to connections that ultimately drive the long-term relationships that matter. Let's talk about Jennifer. She was a college sophomore selling newspaper ads when her editor assigned her something impossible: crack the Ford dealership account. The owner had been angry with the newspaper for years because they had treated him poorly, but Jennifer walked out on her first day with an order. What was her secret? She listened. During that meeting, the dealership owner vented about everything wrong with how the newspaper had treated him. And Jennifer, and this is the key, she didn't jump into a pitch. She let him talk. She acknowledged his feelings. She said, "It isn't fair the way you've been treated." She offered herself as his dedicated contact going forward. "And you know what?" he said, "I like you." Here's what's crucial. He didn't buy the newspaper. He bought Jennifer. He bought her because she made him feel valued and important. This reveals the fundamental principle we need to understand. Real connections require genuine listening. In business, just like in personal relationships, people reveal their true problems only when they feel connected to you. So let's address something that's been sold to us for years. Rapport techniques like mirroring body language, matching breathing patterns, manipulating word choices. It's complex, it's awkward, and it's manipulative. Your buyers see through it. The real secret is simpler and more powerful. Abraham Lincoln said it best. If you would win a man to your cause, first convince him that you are his sincere friend. The most insatiable human desire is feeling valued and important. The gateway to that feeling is listening. Here's the uncomfortable truth about this. Nobody really listens anymore. We're waiting impatiently for our turn to speak. We're planning our next point while someone else is talking. This self-focus destroys connections. True listening requires discipline and selflessness, but it's not complicated. When you genuinely listen, you make someone feel important. Questions amplify this power exponentially. The questions you ask matter more than anything you'll say. Start with easy, natural questions your prospect enjoys answering. Questions that don't trigger defensive walls, especially when you're meeting for the first time. Do your homework beforehand. Google your prospect. Find their accomplishments and acknowledge them. When you recognize what someone's proud of, you satisfy a deep human need. Then comes the listening itself. Give them your complete, undivided attention. Make eye contact, watch their body language, listen to their tone and pace. Hear not just the words, but the emotions beneath them. When people feel genuinely heard, something shifts. That emotional wall comes down. Here's what separates real listening from pretending. Don't interrupt. Don't formulate your response while they're still talking. Pause and count to 2 after they finish. Use supporting phrases like, "Yes, I see," or "That's exciting." Nod. Smile. Lean forward when something genuinely interests you. These behaviors tell people you're really present. The discipline here is overriding your natural instincts to focus on your own thoughts. When you commit to genuine listening, something remarkable happens, and your career will prosper. Now, protecting and deepening these connections over time requires vigilance. Learn the names of their family members, acknowledge birthdays or important events. This shows genuine interest through tangible evidence. And here's something critical. Don't express negative emotions via email, text, or voicemail. These tools lack voice, tone, and facial expressions. When you're frustrated or need to clarify something, just pick up the phone. Fundamental truth is this. Connecting creates an emotional bond that makes people comfortable revealing their real problems. Solve those problems, and you've built something that's both profitable and genuinely loyal. That's the power of likability. That's the gateway to everything that follows. And what follows has to be about solving problems. He starts by telling one of the most pivotal moments in his sales career was this because it completely transformed how he approached business conversations. He says, "I walked into what I thought would be an easy win, the largest account in my territory. Sam, the purchasing manager, was ready to make a decision and wanted a proposal. I was thrilled. I put together a beautiful PowerPoint presentation with all the bells and whistles, competitive pricing, and impressive references. I walked in, confident, ready to close the deal. But here's what happened. His sales manager, Bob, stopped him mid-presentation. Company president Ken was sitting there with his arms crossed, completely unimpressed. And Ken didn't hold back. He said, 'You guys are all the same.' That vendor after vendor had made promises they couldn't keep, and the last time his line shut down, he had to send his entire staff home. We were just another forgettable pitch. That's when everything changed. My sales manager, Bob, grabbed my proposal, slammed it on the floor, and asked Ken a simple question. If you could design the perfect program for your company, what would it look like?" Ken's entire demeanor shifted. He opened up completely. We spent an hour asking follow-up questions, meeting with department heads, and really listening. Then we came back with a solution that solved their problem once and for all. Ken signed without hesitation, paying us 40% more than he'd been paying our competitor. That moment taught me the biggest lesson of my career. When you ask questions, you find problems. When you solve problems, you close business. Most salespeople make what I call the pump and dump mistake, he said. They come in, ask a few generic questions, then pitch their company and product. Buyers find this boring because salespeople are talking about what they want, not what the prospects need. But here's what's worth understanding here. People buy for their reasons, not yours. To solve problems effectively, you need to understand 5 critical rules of questioning. First, people won't reveal problems until they feel connected to you. Second, start with easy questions to get them talking naturally. Third, listen for stories where real problems hide. Fourth, follow emotional cues to dig deeper. And fifth, never assume you know what someone needs. Think of your customers like icebergs. What they show you on the surface is only a fraction of the real picture. The dangerous hidden mass beneath the waterline is where their real problems live. Just like ship captains who ignore what's below the surface face disaster, salespeople who don't dig deeper miss the actual issues that matter most. Here's where empathy becomes essential. When you give people complete attention and genuinely listen, you see each person as unique. You understand that regardless of how common a problem may seem, everyone views their own problems as special. That's the real key to solving problems and building genuine business relationships. Now we share something powerful about relationship building. One of his clients, Tyler, was trying to win over Scott, a decision maker at a bread manufacturing plant. Instead of sitting across from Scott at his desk, Tyler asked for a plant tour. During that walkthrough, they talked about the operation, but also about Scott's family and personal interests. That physical movement fundamentally shifted the dynamic. When decision makers sit behind their desks, they control the room and put up emotional walls. But walking alongside someone levels the playing field. The more Tyler listened, the more Scott opened up. A month later, Tyler closed the account. Scott even invited him to the company golf tournament. Here's the critical insight. Problem solving is where process meets emotion. Sales follows a basic, repeatable process. Qualify, analyze needs, present, close. But the magic happens when you're uncovering real problems. When you've identified a problem, develop and articulate solutions that show specific value. Formula straightforward. Articulate the customer's unique problem, recommend a tailored solution, and show the planned result with concrete benefits. Always tie your recommendations back to the emotional hot buttons they reveal during questioning. This makes them feel listened to and genuinely cared for. And here's where he addresses the closing question he hears constantly. Forget closing tricks. There's no magic pill. If you've truly connected with your buyer, uncovered their real problems, and presented personalized solutions built on trust throughout, closing becomes simple. You'll simply ask, when would you like to get started? The work isn't in some clever closing technique. It's in the foundation you've built through questioning, listening deeply, and demonstrating empathy. That's what separates great salespeople from the rest. Master this, and you'll build a career that's rewarding in every way. Next, we're talking about something that makes or breaks every business relationship you'll ever have: trust. He starts with a story of Rena. She's the top salesperson at her company, outselling over 300 peers. And here's what makes her truly remarkable. She sells expensive medical devices over the phone in an industry where almost everyone sells face-to-face. We're talking about $1,000 to $3,000 instruments, single orders often exceeding $20,000. When he asked Rena how she pulls this off, her answer was simple yet profound. She told him, "The biggest issue I face selling over the phone is trust. People don't want to take a risk on someone they can't see face-to-face and who they don't know. So I take it slow and work on them a little at a time." Her strategy is beautiful in its consistency. She starts with one doctor at a hospital, then becomes relentless about follow-up and exceptional service. She remembers personal details about clients and their families. Her largest account started with a single doctor. For 2 years, he was all she had. But because she consistently delivered on promises and made herself easy to work with, he eventually referred her to colleagues. That one doctor eventually led to hospital-wide vendor status. Here's what Rena understands. When customers trust you, the selling part is easy. But here's the reality. Trust is foundational to all business relationships. When customers rely on your promises, they're vulnerable. Their money, time, and reputation are on the line. Yet, we're naturally skeptical because we've all experienced broken trust. Many people will begin trusting you when given consistent evidence that you keep your word. Using Stephen Covey's metaphor of the emotional bank account, you build trust through deposits, keeping commitments, delivering on promises, showing appreciation. Withdrawals happen when you miss deadlines, behave inconsistently, or make people feel unimportant. Modern business relationships begin in the red. You're starting in a hole, especially in sales. You must consistently prove that you're trustworthy. So what really matters? Going the extra mile is an attitude, a commitment to excellence even when nobody's watching. It's what separates you from 90% of your competitors. There are no traffic jams on the extra mile. Most contests are won by small margins, and the winner is almost always the person who maintains self-discipline to give more despite adversity. But here's where most people get it wrong. While one catastrophic mistake can damage trust beyond repair, it's actually the small things that erode your foundation over time. Showing up late, not returning calls, disorganization, missed deadlines, spelling errors, being unprepared. These seem insignificant individually, but they accumulate and build a case that you can't be trusted. To win, you must be perfect in everything: your interactions, presentations, appearance, organization, and manners. You can't do this alone. Most successful salespeople understand they need their support team. Map your sales process strategically the moment an opportunity enters your pipeline, then engage your team with clear objectives. But here's the critical part. Communicate consistently and treat your support staff with respect. They're people who want to feel valued and appreciated too. When problems arise, your rapid response becomes a golden opportunity to cement trust. When you make mistakes, and you will, admit it quickly and apologize sincerely. A creative, humble apology with good humor can actually strengthen relationships. But the fastest path to trust? Listen. The more you listen to others, the more they'll trust you. He watched Billy handle lost customers beautifully. He doesn't shy away from difficult conversations. When customers call to explain why they left, he simply asks them to tell their story and listens without interruption. People realize Billy won't push back or defend the company, so they open up even more. Eventually, their original complaints don't seem quite so catastrophic. That's when Billy steps in to explain what's changed and restructures an offering around their feedback. Most come back. People weren't leaving just because of mistakes. They wanted to be heard. And here's something equally critical: consistency. Inconsistent behavior is a trust killer. When people can't predict how you'll show up, they can't trust you. In business, you're always on stage. Your behaviors are constantly on display. You control what people observe, so you must think before speaking and pause before acting. Self-discipline isn't optional, it's essential. Without trust, business cannot function effectively. It's foundational to every relationship. Building and maintaining that trust requires consistent evidence that you're reliable. You have to demonstrate discipline in managing every behavior, keeping every promise, and following through on every commitment. That's how you win. In this next section, he starts by sharing something personal. He'd been traveling nonstop for 3 weeks, speaking at sales meetings, consulting, bouncing from city to city, and by the time he dragged himself to San Jose for a weekend training event, he'd squeezed into an already packed schedule. He was exhausted and frankly a little bitter. He didn't want to be there. Then something unexpected happened. The CEO of that company, where he was giving the presentation, was waiting for him at the airport with a sign showing his name. She offered to give me a ride and dinner, but what really got me was what he found on the car seat: water, energy bars, and a birthday gift, a book he'd mentioned wanting to read months early. She remembered. That gesture completely transformed his attitude. He went from resentful to energized and grateful. He ended up giving that company far more than what they paid for. He did unbilled work, made regular follow-up calls, and provided impromptu coaching for over a year because he wanted to repay her kindness. This illustrates what he calls the law of reciprocity. When someone gives you something meaningful, you feel obligated to give it back. But here's the crucial part. This only works when you give sincerely with no expectation of return. When you approach reciprocity as a transaction, demanding equal value back, you'll end up jaded and frustrated. Too many people operate with a me-first mentality. They view relationships as paychecks, their customers as a means to an end. They claim reciprocity doesn't work because people take advantage of them. But he says, I promise you what goes around comes around. And eventually the scales balance. In business, you anchor relationships through positive emotional experiences. Think of it like a ship's anchor creating a bond with the ocean floor. It keeps things stable. Most salespeople think customers will stay loyal to their product or service. Wrong. Customers see everyone as interchangeable. The minute you stop appreciating your client, someone else will win them over. But you cannot be duplicated. Your job is to never stop creating those positive emotional experiences that build loyalty. So he says, let me be straight with you. Creating positive emotional experiences doesn't require spending a fortune. It's about being thoughtful, personal, and disciplined enough to follow through. As the saying goes, don't cost nothing to be nice. Sure, you could take a client to meet their favorite NASCAR driver, that's memorable, but small gestures often carry far more meaning. Remembering a birthday, handwritten thank you note, or a congratulatory voicemail are essentially free ways to make people feel valued. The real challenge isn't coming up with ideas, it's having the discipline to execute them consistently. Most people have good intentions, but few follow through. You need a system, whether you use CRM software like Salesforce, delegate to an assistant, or hire a virtual assistant. You have to become systematic about recording important details. Take copious notes, document everything that helps you create a unique, personalized experience. He's seen remarkable examples of this principle in action. One salesperson shipped ribs from his client's favorite hometown restaurant to a decision maker who was reluctant to move forward. No business talk, just lunch between two guys. A week later, he got the contract. Another account executive discovered a client's pride in her daughter's Division I basketball career. He sent a University of Kentucky basketball with a note asking if her daughter would autograph it for his own daughter. Cost under $50. The impact? It helped close a deal worth over $10,000 in bonus. The secret is listening deeply for self-disclosure. When you focus completely on someone, listening with your eyes, ears, and heart, you'll discover what matters emotionally to them. That's where you find opportunities to create experiences with real significance. Finally, let's talk about handwritten notes. In our technology-saturated world, a genuine handwritten note stands out dramatically. Make it a habit. Send 3 to 5 note cards daily, within 24 hours of meetings. Invest in good stationery with your name embossed. This small effort builds connections, strengthens your network, and distinguishes you as someone who genuinely goes the extra mile. So here's what ties everything together. Create a system that captures emotional cues and reminds you to follow through. Whether that's notes in your phone, reminders on your calendar, or a tracking system, the structure matters. It transforms good intentions into actual positive experiences that people remember. This combo of deep listening, personalization, and systematic follow-through creates something powerful. It tells people they matter, that you see them, and that you're committed to their well-being. That's when positive emotional experiences become truly transformative. In this final section, he talks about personal branding. And no, this isn't about self-promotion or narcissism. It's about understanding how the world actually perceives you. Let's be vulnerable for a moment, he says. I once hired a top business coaching firm to conduct something like a focus group on me. They interviewed my clients, colleagues, and friends. When I read that report, I was devastated. The gap between how I thought people saw me and how they actually perceived me was massive. I was blind to behaviors and character flaws that were actively damaging my relationships. But that painful moment became a turning point. His coach helps him see something crucial. His education, his accomplishments, his skills, they mattered far less than the quality of his interpersonal interactions. Success in business comes down to one thing: getting people to buy you. Tom Peters captured this brilliantly in his concept, A Brand Called You. He argues that we're all CEOs of our own companies, what he calls Me Inc. Your most important job is becoming the head marketer for yourself. Your personal brand is simply the perception others have of you and how you appear in their actual experience with you. It's a promise of value. When your brand is strong, people make emotional decisions to work with you because they believe you can solve their problems. Here's what matters the most. The brand isn't built through words. It's built through action. Every single thing you do, everything you don't do gets judged and accumulated by others to shape their perception of you. But action alone isn't enough. You have to actively manage your reputation through consistent messaging, both online and offline. Your brand rests on 5 foundations. Are you likable? Do you genuinely connect with people? Can you solve their problems? Are you trustworthy? Do you create positive emotional experiences? You'll never perfectly embody all of these all the time, but understanding them gives you the ability to self-correct. Of course, you'll slip up, and when you do, you'll handle it with genuine humility. A sincere apology in a neutral setting, maybe a coffee shop, goes a long way. Most people give second chances if you seem authentically human. The danger is when the behavior repeats. Beyond managing behavior, control your professional image. Yep, that means how you dress, your car, your office, your online presence. But here's what people overlook. Position yourself as an expert and maintain an impeccable online presence. Becoming an expert is simpler than you think. Study your subject thoroughly. Read 15 minutes a day. That's roughly 15 books a year, what top executives do. Leverage your company's learning systems if you have them, listening to audiobooks during your commute. Then demonstrate your knowledge. Write articles, speak at industry events, volunteer to lead training, mentor new hires. Public speaking sets you apart and generates qualified leads. Contact trade associations and chambers of commerce. They're constantly looking for speakers. Writing is equally powerful. Start with your company newsletter, then move to an industry publication. A blog is ideal because you control the content. WordPress and Blogger are free options. Now we have LinkedIn, Substack, and Medium too. Once published, your articles become the first things people discover when they Google you. Speaking of Google, manage your online presence with vigilance. Your managers, prospects, and customers are searching for you. Create a professional website or a blog with your photo, bio, accomplishments, and articles. Build a LinkedIn profile. This is essential in our transparent world. Set up Google Alerts to monitor what people say about you online. Building this presence won't happen overnight. It takes months, sometimes years, but take it one step at a time. But here's the critical part. Once success comes, promotions, recognition, awards, you'll face a dangerous temptation to relax. Don't. I saw an advertisement, he said, that said it perfectly. When you're in second place, attack the leader. When you're in first place, attack yourself. Complacency is lethal. The real discipline isn't analyzing your failures. It's breaking down your brilliant performances and making small adjustments. Steve Young said it best. The principle is competing against yourself. It's about self-improvement, about being better than the day before. Great performers never stop scrutinizing their work. They seek improvement relentlessly. That's what separates the good from the great. You are your most powerful business asset. It takes constant vigilance to remain likable, connected, trustworthy, and to create those positive emotional experiences. Remember this. People don't buy words, campaigns, or presentations. People buy you. And so that wraps up this episode, number 98, People Buy You by Jeb Blount. So here's a good question. Why did I choose this book? Well, for medical product development teams, this is where these lessons get very real. You may not think of yourself as being in sales, but every client interaction shapes trust. The first meeting that supports new business, the technical deep dive, the design review, the risk discussion, the tense conversations when schedule, cost, or scope start to creep. In each of those moments, the client is not only judging the plan, they're judging you. Do you listen? Do you understand their business, their regulatory burden, their patient impact, and the pressure they're under? Do you bring calm, clarity, and competence when the program gets messy? Because in medtech, great relationships are not soft skills sitting off to the side. They're part of how difficult products get built. People may buy the proposal at the beginning, but they keep buying the team every week after that. So that's our job. And that's why I believe this book is relevant for all of us. Everything we covered today lives inside a larger pattern I've been tracking across medical product development programs for 30 years. Timelines that slip, AI that adds risk instead of reducing it, which is a recent thing, products built without the architecture to support what's coming next. The gap between where most teams operate and what the next decade requires is real, and I find it for a living. If you want to close that gap, connect with me through LinkedIn or through www.innoguide.net. Systems thinking, AI integration without added regulatory risk, embedded ML readiness, built from 66 delivered medical products, not theory. And if you're a medtech leader who wants to work through these problems with peers who are inside the same pressure, MedX is where that happens. Every month, first Thursday of the month. The join button is on my LinkedIn page. That's where to find me. I want to thank Steve McIntyre for producing this, and I want to thank you all for joining us. I look forward to seeing you again next time. That's a wrap.